It always feels a little bit weird to make content for myself talking about someone else's content, but today's video I think makes a bit of sense because it's such a big deal and it's such a fun conversation starter, so to speak, that I think we just have to do it. What has happened? Well, MKBHD, the biggest tech YouTuber on planet Earth, has released his video on the blind smartphone camera test of 2023. Basically, what happens here, I'll drop a link to this, by the way, in the description down below. You can go take the test and see your own results. But basically, what happens is you go through 3 different categories: standard, low light, and portrait mode. You pick a category, and then as you go through, it will show you 2 different images. Mine are scrunched because my web browser is scrunched up. It won't look like that unless you do what I'm doing. And you just pick one, and it shows you the next one. And you pick one, and it shows you the next one. And you just continue that until this is filled up to, I think, the first bubble, but you can keep going to add more data to it. And then at the end of this, you will get a first, second, third place. And then on top of that, you're adding to the larger data pool that is then deciding what cameras placed where more broadly, not just from yourself, but in regard to everyone's votes. And this is done in a pretty intelligent way because it's not always like the iPhone 15 versus the S23 Ultra for everybody. They're randomized, right? So you just keep voting and you're going to see the same pictures over and over, but the matchups are going to change. And by doing that, you get a really quite, I think, potentially scientifically accurate result. You don't know what phone you're looking at. You just know that here's a picture and here's a picture and I like this one better, and you're off to the next one. The only bias that's going to be possible is your own personal preference for what you look for in a photo. For all the people that say, I only like iPhone pictures, I only like Galaxy pictures, well, you're going to find out if that's actually true or not if you go through and do this vote. Now, I want to make one thing very, very clear here. We're going to spoil the results. If you want to see this stuff now, that's fine, but I'm going to drop a link to his video down below. Go watch Marquez, his entire video, because it's very well done. It's very interesting. And then come back here and we're going to talk about the results and kind of dig in and kind of, find the conversations here to be had. All right, so you have been thoroughly warned. You're about to get the results spoiled. Let's take a look now at the normal category. And boy, oh boy, is there a lot of really interesting stuff to talk about here. So first place, the winner of the normal category is the lowly mid-range Pixel 7a for the 2nd year in a row, I believe, maybe the 3rd year in a row actually, but I don't remember specifically, but definitely 2nd year in a row. The A series Pixel has been the favorite, the best, the most voted for, winning the most matchups. It has won the normal camera. That is absolutely crazy. It is a mid-range phone and it absolutely dominates these things. Google seems to really know what people want to see out of their cameras, and they are great at delivering it even on older camera hardware. Of course, the Pixel 7a actually does have a newer camera sensor now, but it's not as high-end as much of the competition. Crazy that it won. Let's jump back. If the 7a won, well, it makes pretty good sense that a phone that has almost the exact same camera hardware would be right there with it, and the Pixel Fold is number 2. How many people did you see review the Pixel Fold and say that they weren't super impressed by the camera wasn't that great? Well, if you get rid of the brand, you don't tell people what camera they're looking at. It's weird how many of them ended up voting for the Pixel Fold. It's very strange how that works, but really interestingly to me, the OnePlus Open right there with it. What a great performance by OnePlus. They're managing to get into the top 3 on the normal camera. Personally, I think the OnePlus Open does have a slightly better camera than the Pixel Fold, but hey, they're right there with each other. Pretty cool. Let's zoom out though, because there is a lot more to dig into. The Pixel 8 Pro right there, not too far from the top. But let's go to the worst photos, okay? In last place, the iPhone 15, what was it doing here? It went super duper dark, and I think that just threw everyone off. And then maybe just as puzzling, the S23 Ultra overexposed and looked quite strange and was in the 2nd to last place. The very expensive Xperia phones also did poorly. The Z Fold 5 did quite poorly as well. Even the iPhone 15 Pro very far towards the bottom. What you're going to find in these sorts of tests is that exposure matters a ton. You're going to notice that these winning photos all have one thing in common. Even though the open is a bit warmer and maybe has a bit more contrast, it is well exposed. If you look at the losers, something weird has happened to the exposure. So I'm sure camera OEMs, phone makers, you guys are paying attention to this stuff. You're noticing that if your camera blows the exposure, you're not going to be preferred by most people. The color can be a little bit wonky here and there, as long as the exposure is right, as long as the picture is relatively bright without being overexposed, you're going to be in a really good place. And I think that that's pretty obviously borne out there. Now, we also need to look at the night mode, and things get flipped around quite a bit here. Some of the cameras that did poorly have jumped up and vice versa. Winning the night mode competition is the iPhone 15 Pro, and I think it did a pretty darn good job. I did notice that the sky looks quite different here versus the phones that were in second and third place, which were Pixels once again, the Pixel 8 Pro and the Pixel 7a. It makes me wonder which of these skies were more accurate. I think that they all look quite good. Again, exposure is the primary thing. The iPhone is really kind of brightening things up. And you'll notice as we go through this, the S23 Ultra has done quite well. The Pixel Fold has done quite well. The Z Flip actually surprisingly did better than I thought it would. Z Fold 5, somewhere in the middle of the pack. If we look at the phones that did poorly, though, obviously the quality is not great here because we're zooming in on a photo. Again, if you want to see the full quality, go watch Marquez's full video. But you start to get this weird halo effect. You start to get the HDR acting really, really weird. They're just over-processed. Look at the Zenfone in particular. The sky is a really weird color. The OnePlus Open didn't do too great either because, again, you get that HDR effect cranked up. If you just take any photo that you have, take it in a Snapseed, and I think there's like an HDR setting, crank that up to like the maximum, and it's going to start to look like this, where there's this like halo effect around them. Things are getting really quite weird. It seems like with night mode, there is some finesse that needs to happen, and some of these OEMs are just not doing a great job with that level of finesse. Now, there's one more category in terms of different photos that we need to look at, and that is portrait mode. Now, I've been someone who has for a long time said that they really prefer Samsung's portrait mode. I think the Pixel portrait mode is not that great. I think it tends to look a little bit weird for me. It's over sharpened on the face sometimes, and the blur might not always look great. But in these results, it seems as though people do indeed really like the Pixel's portrait mode because it is in first place with the Pixel 8 Pro. Shockingly, the Z Fold 5 in second place, followed by the iPhone 15 Pro in third place. But more Pixels here, more iPhones here. The OnePlus Open did really well. I actually really, really like the OnePlus Open's portrait mode, so I'm surprised it didn't do better than this. But still, not a terrible result. Pixel Fold somewhere in the middle of the pack. But let's look again like we like to. 23 Ultra, also middle of the pack. At the cameras that just lost their minds. The Sony Xperia 1 Mark V, I believe is how you're supposed to say that, absolutely lost his mind and did terrible. The Xiaomi 13 Ultra was overexposed and the blur looks a little bit weird as well. OnePlus 11, surprisingly, towards the very bottom. Nothing Phone, Moto Razr Plus, Zenfone 10. Cameras you might not be super surprised by not doing great in regard to the finesse required to do a good portrait mode. Now, what's really cool about this is that Marquez takes all of these categories and he averages out the ELO, which is basically the number that they're coming up with these randomized matchups, and they come up with a top 20. They rank order them by that average score. And this is where things are absolutely wild. While these cameras maybe didn't win every round, if you average out the ELO, the best performing cameras are all Pixels. The 7a, 8 Pro, and then the Fold in 1, 2, and 3. If you're at the Olympics and you have the gold, silver, and bronze podiums, it is occupied exclusively by Google Pixel phones. How insane is that? But I want to give a really big tip of the hat to the OnePlus Open for hanging out at number 4. beating the S23, beating the iPhone 15 Pro, beating the Z Fold 5. Unbelievable performance. Maybe not unbelievable to those of us that have the phone, because like I've been saying since I got it, the camera is outstanding. It is absolutely a great phone. And like I've said, I've told you guys, it and the Pixel Fold are close. I give the edge to the OnePlus Open by a little bit. And just in case you think I'm crazy, here's data. I'm not crazy. They are right there, neck and neck with one another. Pixel Fold slightly getting the edge, even though I do lean the other way. Man, is that really, really close. There's one more thing we do need to look at, though, and it's ELO per dollar. So if you want to have the best camera you can get while not spending a ton, this is the category for you. I'm just going to throw it up on the screen there. Nothing too shocking. Pixel 7a, of course, winning the Z Fold 5 in dead last because it didn't do that great overall, and it's really expensive. Pixel Fold is towards the bottom as well. It's really, really expensive. So, of course, it's going to be down there as well. But look at the Nothing phone, the OnePlus 11, ELO per dollar. Camera's really important to you and you don't want to spend a lot. I think that's a great guide to work off of. Unfortunately, I do not have my results anymore. I voted on this weeks ago and I don't have them anymore. I didn't actually screenshot them either. However, I do remember this much. My first place on all three categories were a Pixel of some sort. I think I got the 7a on one, the 8 Pro on one, and the Fold on the other. I don't remember which ones were which, but I think main photos were maybe the Pixel Fold. I think maybe night mode was the Pixel 8 Pro, and I think maybe portrait mode was the 7a or something like that. I do know for a fact all of my first places were the Pixel devices because I took the polls and I was like, what are the odds of that? That's crazy. Now I know that it's not just the odds are crazy. It's apparently what was happening. So guys, there you go. Like I said, I think that this is a great jumping off point for a lot of really interesting conversations. And I'm going to look forward to reading the comments down below about what you think. Are there any surprises in there? Did you take the poll yourself? And what results did you get? Drop those down below as well. Did you, were you surprised by the results that you received? Did you go into this thinking that you were going to love those Galaxy photos like you always do, only to find out that you might be an iPhone user going forward? I'd love to hear about it in the comments down below. Again, links to the website and to the video itself, Marquez's video itself, down below. So click on those and go watch them. Go do your votes and all that good stuff, guys. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.